Hey, what's going on, guys? Week 10, the guide.
Yes, welcome week 10, everyone. How to create a powerful personal brand.
That's amazing. Andres here, and I'm so excited for this lesson because personal branding has been just a mind shift, small mind shift that I did that you'll see how it's actually a huge mind shift because it changes the way you see yourself inside the online world. I think it's really powerful.
Definitely. Let's jump in. So, the objective of today's lesson is I think of myself as a personal brand and understand how to use personal branding to establish authority, achieve incremental growth in my business, and impact the lives of others. And so, the key topics that we're going to be covering today are number one, what is a personal brand and personal branding? Number two, brand purpose. Number three, brand core values. Number four, brand persona. Number five, origin story. Number six, tagline. Number seven, visual identity. And lastly, number eight, key practices of successful personal brands. So let's start.
I like that. I am a brand.
We are all a brand. That's what we'll learn. So what exactly is a personal brand and what is personal branding? So a personal brand is a widely recognized and largely uniform perception or impression of an individual based on their experience, expertise, competencies, actions, and or achievements within a community, industry, or the marketplace at large. So it's the perception of what people think of you, right? The impression that they have of you in their mind. Whereas personal branding is the conscious and intentional effort. So it's the effort instead of just the impression to create and influence public perception of an individual by positioning them as an authority in their industry, evaluating their credibility, and differentiating themselves from the competition to ultimately advance their career, increase their circle of influence, and have a larger impact. So essentially, what this all means, put very simply, is that a personal brand is rooted in the minds of people in the market, while personal branding is the effort to communicate and present your value to the world. Okay, so a true personal brand revolves around what other people say about you, and therefore personal branding revolves around what you say about yourself. Okay, so as you can see from the graph below, on the left we have how you see yourself, right? So how you are talking about yourself, how you're trying to show yourself to the world, and then how others perceive you, how others see you on the right. And the area in between is essentially what your personal brand is, right? So we just wanted to differentiate what exactly is personal brand, what's personal branding, and what's the difference and the common thread between the two of those. And so directly correlated with this is the brand promise. And the brand promise is essentially the result or the desired self or desired outcome that your services or your personal brand is providing. We've talked a lot about the current self versus the desired self. And so you know all about what the desired self is. It's really the end result, the outcome that you're promising, right? So a lot of the times when we hear the words brand, we think of logos, we think of colors, but that is not actually what your brand is. Those are facets of a brand, but they are not the brand itself. So then the brand promise, the desired outcome, is actually the most important element of your branding. So really knowing what it is that you are providing to people, right? Your brand is your values, your promise, and your story. And we're going to get deeper into all of those in future sections. But just so you know, again, a lot of the times we think of a brand of the very, just the aesthetic exterior things. And that is not actually what the brand is itself.
I'll actually tell you a quick story because when I was first doing design, and I'll share more about this later, but when I was doing design, I would always get mad when people would hire just designers to do all their aesthetics, because I knew that always, it took way more to go into the actual values, into the actual why and the stories. And, we're going to share a lot of those things here today, but, in essence, most people were not even making that connection, that it was so much more than just the logo, like just the graphic anyone can do. But the point is the whole story that you're communicating from, the first impression they get to you all the way to your top products. It really goes back to understanding that it's not your logos, your logo, your design, your colors, but it's, it goes so much deeper and, if you can see it in a holistic way, you will be able to make that connection so much faster than the people that, work with me.
Exactly. And we also want to make sure that you do not confuse branding with marketing or advertising. So if we want to break this down very simplistically, branding is identifying your message. Marketing is sharing your message, and advertising is attracting the right people to share it with at scale.
I love that definition.
So again, not to confuse with marketing, advertising, they have a place and they're equally important. But if you do not have a clear brand, your marketing advertising is going to be very confusing and is not going to be as successful as it could be if you had a very clear personal brand identity. So we live in a time where everyone is overly focused on their branding and not focused enough on their brand. And more specifically, like Andres said, more on the exterior of their brand, right? What it looks like aesthetically, as far as colors, as far as images. And again, those play a role, but that is not actually what the brand itself is. So branding is surface level, whereas a brand is an emotional connection. And as you can see from this little graph image we have below here, I believe there's 8 emotions in the center. And different psychologists have discovered that they believe, at least, that there are 8 core emotions. And then all of the other emotions come and stem from each one of those 8. Okay, so in the middle, we have ecstasy, and that transfers into joy, serenity, and so on. Admiration, that goes into trust and acceptance. Terror, that goes into fear and apprehension. So as you can see, we have the 8 core emotions here, and then they go into different ones. And obviously every brand has a core emotion that it aims to communicate or leave in the minds and hearts of the ideal avatar. So in the words of the brilliant poet and activist Maya Angelou, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I remember reading this quote a very long time ago, a few years ago when I was in university. And I remember remembering thinking how true this was, right? A lot of the times, if I'm asked to recall a specific time in my life or an event in my life, I don't remember a lot of specific things that I said in that exact moment or what exactly someone specifically did at what exact time, but I remember all the emotions that were around that specific event. So whether it's, a graduation, a wedding, maybe a time in your life where even a relative passed away, right? We don't remember every single thing that happened or everything that was said, but we absolutely do remember the emotion that is associated with that event in our life. And so this is what a true brand aims to do. It's a feeling. So here are some examples, probably some organizations that we all know. Coca-Cola. So without a doubt, the emotion, the brand emotion that Coca-Cola aims to give to its consumers is joy, right? Every time we see a Coca-Cola commercial, we always see people smiling, people happy, people socializing, drinking a Coke. Quite literally, their slogan is open happiness, right? So associating you opening up a can or a bottle of Coca-Cola and quite literally, just feeling happy, joyful, blissful, right in that moment, whether it's because it tastes good or because you're with people that you care about, family and friends. And so this is a very good example of a very clear brand emotion that they always try to aim for. Another one here is Greenpeace. So if you're familiar with this organization, while this may not be the only emotion that you've ever felt when interacting with Greenpeace, one of the main ones is guilt, right? I know this is a personal emotion that I experience whenever I see advertisements by them. So as an example, the 2 top advertisements here, we have a bird that's evidently been choked by some kind of a fishing net. And on the right, we have a polar bear that is quite evidently starving to death in the Arctic. And if you look in the middle, it says, click instead of, prove that you're not a robot, confirm humanity, right? And so it really makes you think about what are some of the things that I'm doing in my daily life that are contributing to this and how can I help solve it, right? And guilt it stems from the emotion here of, I would say probably grief, right? It goes into sadness. Sometimes it can even go on the realm of disgust or loathing, right? We feel remorse for that. It's kind of in the middle of the two. And although a lot of brands really aim to go with positive emotions, ones like guilt and remorse are really, really effective in getting their message across as well. So this is a very prime example of that. And then lastly here, we have Donald Trump's brand emotion. And I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of different things, especially a couple of years ago when he was rallying to become president and a lot of the different things that happened with his supporters. Something that Donald Trump rides really well on is invoking a lot of fear in people. And again,
it's like hope and fear.
Exactly. They're kind of the opposite, right? He gets you very riled up on all the possible horrible things that could happen. You see from the quote, you're going to have more World Trade Centers. It's going to get worse and worse, folks, right? This is definitely something that he does a lot. He fear mongers, right? And whether it's true or not is besides the point. The point that fear is a major human driver, and he uses fear to gain support and loyalty very well. So fear is also a big one. It's very powerful, and this is a prime example of a brand emotion that uses it. Okay, and so now we're going to get into brand purpose. And this is something that we believe so strongly in. So I'm really excited to talk about that, help you learn more about that in regards to your own business.
Mm-hmm.
So a powerful brand purpose sets out how a person, company, or organization intends to change the world for the better. That's really what it comes down to. Right? Every organization, whatever they're selling, there should be some kind of a point behind it, right? Something that it's doing to make the world a better place. So the purpose, its role is to unite customers and culture alike in the pursuit of that intention. Because as we know, all people desire to be a part of something bigger than themselves. We've talked about this before, right? Back, we were talking about the vision. Back, we were talking about your messaging. We talked about a movement of impact. Right? People like Martin Luther King, people like Nelson Mandela, whatever it might be. There have been people around the world who have stuck to causes that have been led by one leader or a couple of leaders, because at the core of it all, no matter what our political views are, no matter what our social views are, we all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Right? So whether you were on the side of Hillary, whether you're on the side of Trump, the point is everyone wants to be a part of something bigger. And so it is at its core a meaningful reason for existing, right? It's the reason that the brand exists, which is a very powerful question to ask. Why does your brand, why does your business even exist, right? What would happen if you didn't exist?
Yeah, that's a very powerful question.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so here, I want you to think back to the vision that you crafted back in week 1 and 2, mm-hmm. Right? The purpose of your personal brand must be inherently be connected to the vision you've crafted for your life and business, right? There really is no getting around that. However you envisioned your life and business going, well, there's obviously a purpose to that, as an underlying purpose. And so you absolutely should value both purpose and profit, because as we know, without profit, you're not going to be able to do as much good in the world as you truly want, right? Things in this world cost money, and resources therefore means power to do those things. But nonetheless, I would argue that it's your moral responsibility to yourself, as well as the greater world, to ensure that your personal brand values purpose over profit. And so the reason I say that is because, again, they're both important. But if you make decisions solely based on money, which is what happens to a lot of businesses and a lot of organizations even, which is very unfortunate, even nonprofits have been found to do this at points, is that you begin to stray away from the core purpose of what it is that you're trying to do. And that can start really small, and eventually it can grow incrementally, right? But it starts out sometimes kind of sneaky. And so a lot of organizations unfortunately do that. But if you are constantly keeping in mind your purpose over everything else, then the profit will inherently follow in a way that is integral, in a way that's honest and authentic to what you're truly trying to do. Mm-hmm. So I really want to stress that point.
Yeah, this is powerful. Yeah, I hope you're taking notes.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So on that note, 81%, I found that 81% of millennials say business success means having a purpose, even if it costs them money. And as we know, a lot of organizations in the world definitely do not live by that standard, right? We all have different opinions on different industries, but as a prime example, I I am a really big advocate for the environment, right? So it would be against my own purpose in life to therefore work with companies who are consciously aware of the degradation of our planet, but are still making choices to further destroy it, right? And so it's a wonderful thing to hear that 81% of millennials, so people our age and younger, are moving away from organizations that are solely focused on profit, right? So if you haven't heard of Simon Sinek, this is the golden circle that he's created. If you haven't read his book, Start With Why. It's a really great book. He gives lots of examples of organizations in the world that are doing wonderful things and that they're doing well because they started with the big why, or their purpose. So the golden circle says that your why must come first. That's the core of your organization. It's the core of your business, right? So your why is why you do what you do, why you exist. So here it says very few organizations know why they do what they do. Why is not about making money. Again, money will happen, but it's not why you exist. That's a result. Why is a purpose, cause, or belief? It's the very reason your organization exists. And then once you establish that, which is the most important thing, then you go to how. So some organizations know how they do it. These are the things that make them special or set them apart from their competition, right? So even some of your branding goes into this now. It's why am I different? Why am I special? How I differentiate myself. But again, that only comes after you know why you exist in the first place. And then last but not least is the what. So every organization on the planet knows what they do. These are the products they sell or the services. And so the big problem in business today is that a lot of us know what we do. We just focus on a product. We focus on what we're trying to sell. And that's pretty much as far as we go. But we don't go to the real core reason of why we're even selling them in the first place. And then we tend to lose our moral compass, right? So really want to stress home with this that purpose comes first and the money will absolutely follow. And to give a prime example of this is Richard Branson. So this is a man who is worth 4.2 billion US dollars and who is extremely, extremely purposeful with every single choice that he makes in his entrepreneurial life. Right, so this is a quote by him. From the day I took my first steps as an entrepreneur, I felt that the only mission worth pursuing in business is to make people's lives better. Right, so at the end of the day, any business or nonprofit, whatever it is existing in the world to make this world a better place. Whether it's serving people, animals, both, everything's interconnected really. But the point is that your services or products, whatever they are, their aim on some level needs to be bettering the state of humanity. And so on the right here is just the persona that he takes, which Andres is going to get into a bit later, of the persona that he's taken on and making sure that his actions are in alignment with this persona at all times. Right? So it says, tie-loathing adventurer, philanthropist, and troublemaker who believes in turning ideas into reality. Right? So this is the persona he's taken on, someone who's adventurous, who loves to take risks, troublemaker, a little bit unorthodox, but also a philanthropist who cares about humanitarian causes. Right? And so everything that he does in business has to align with that persona and the purpose that he has of making the world a better place and making lives better. Right? And so just proof is in the pudding that you don't have to choose between money and meaning or purpose and profit. You can absolutely have both. And I'd argue that if you have only one and not the other, you're not going to be able to make an impact in the world that you truly want to. And it just doesn't cut it. You have to have both. And so even now within purpose, now you have an internal purpose and external purpose. Okay. So every powerful personal brand must have both an internal purpose and an external purpose. Your internal purpose, in essence, is the personal underlying reason that you want to have a successful business or organization. Okay, so it's really your inner why. Why is it personal to you that you have this business or organization? While your external purpose is the main reason why you want your business or organization to exist in the world. So more what it's doing outwardly for others. Okay, so what's it going to do for you and what's it going to do for others? And so as an example, I'll share my own. So my personal brand internal purpose is that I want my future family with Andres, my husband here, and my mother to be financially secure and never have to struggle for money. Okay, so if you don't know a lot about my story, my mom pretty much raised me on her own for the majority of my life. And we didn't have a lot of money, right? My mom didn't get financial support from my dad. She's a single mother, and she worked nonstop to make sure that we were provided for. And I'm happy to say that we never went without food, never went without basic amenities, but nonetheless, she worked very hard to keep us afloat, right? We didn't have extra money lying around, that was for sure. And so I often saw her struggle and sacrifice a lot of things that I know were in her own best interest, her own happiness, her own well-being for me, for our well-being. So Andres also comes from a similar background of they had enough, but there wasn't a lot extra, right? So I don't want my future family to struggle financially because I know that the emotional and mental burdens that come along with that. I know when you have peace of mind, when you have more than enough, you can also give more. And so my internal why is really to give back to my mother for all that she's given to me and to make sure that the future family that me and Andres have together is secure and that my children never go without and always know that they are secure and will be taken care of.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And now my personal external purpose is that I want to empower purpose-driven leaders to make a positive change in the world and enable philanthropic causes to thrive. So since I was about 22, I started to gain a deep, deep interest into nonprofits and the world of philanthropy. I was very drawn towards it. Whether it was supporting causes, financially, my mom had a sponsored child with World Vision from when I was very young. Whatever it may be, I always felt like I had a role to play in that. It always tugged on my heartstrings. And so the pictures down here on the very far left, and then the one with me and the dog in the middle, that was when me and Andres went to Thailand as an example last year. And while we were there, we visited Soy Dog Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that helps mainly dogs and cats sterilize them and give them medical treatment, and really helps people in the communities too, because teaching them more compassion, and it's also helping the problem with disease such as rabies on the streets of Phuket. So that's an example of, we visited there because we felt like it was really something we wanted to contribute to financially and with our time. And the pictures below, this was actually a trip that I took when I was 22. So when I was 22, I kind of just went out on a whim. I felt that I wanted to explore my horizons, get out of my environment, and really just see how I could serve in another country who needed help. And I went to Colombia in South America to teach English mainly. I did do some other things in homeless shelters, but I was mainly teaching in a school. And these were the students that I was teaching English to. This was a school that didn't have a lot of resources, didn't have a lot of textbooks, didn't have a lot of teachers even, so they were in dire need of help. And honestly, both these experiences have changed my life in so many positive ways for the better. So that's really my external purpose, is to help philanthropic causes.
Yeah, I love that.
And help leaders who care about them too.
Yeah, purpose-driven.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's an example. And you really want to start thinking about what are your internal purposes? Mm-hmm. What are your external purposes? And so this is where it really comes to, what are you really selling?
Really?
Right? Mm-hmm. Because you can be selling external products and services, of course, right? Like our external product that we're selling you right now is this course. If you're listening to this and you're going through it, you bought into this course, right? This is the physical thing that you're getting. But perhaps what you're really getting from this is hope. Maybe you're really getting empowerment for your own cause that you want to support, right? That's what we're really selling here. And so some other examples that may not be so obvious are, clothing stores. So if Forever 21 or Free People, whatever it is, they're selling their clothes. Well, yeah, they're clothes. They are physical things. But they could also be selling self-expression. Mm-hmm. Or in the case of Free People, it could actually be compassion, because, they are a company that doesn't use sweatshops as an example. So when you wear their clothing, you're selling freedom, right? You're wearing equality. You're wearing compassion. Coffee. So let's say Starbucks, right? Yeah, they are selling coffee. They're selling delicious coffee that people genuinely want to drink and enjoy drinking. But they're also selling the environment. They're selling warmth, intimacy, comfort. Business coaching, right? So similar to even if you're getting from this, you're getting some kind of coaching for your business or organization. And perhaps what your main thing you're getting is confidence, right? That's what we're really selling you. It's confidence, empowerment.
Confidence to know that it's possible.
Exactly.
Confidence to know that you can do this. And I think it takes a level of, seeing beyond the physical here so that you can look at the intangibles, right? Like that's really what you're selling. When asking this question is going beyond what you can perceive with your eyes, like clothing, coffee, this actual course, education, and whatever you're selling, in whatever niche you are in. Ask yourself, what are you really selling?
Yeah, and education, again, that's a prime example. As you know, I used to be a teacher, and I was teaching in a classroom with my kids, and now I'm teaching here with Andres, via the internet. You're watching this, or via your little portal login. But really what I believe I'm selling when I'm providing you with education is empowerment, right? Education is power. Knowledge is power. When you learn this, you are now empowered to go and put this into your own life and business on your own, right? So really, really something to think about. Look beyond the physical, look beyond what you can see, and see what you feel when you buy a product or service. So if you haven't found your purpose yet, build it. And I know that this is probably something that you're thinking, right? A lot of us, myself included, for such a long time, and still sometimes, become extremely frustrated trying to find our purpose. We push and we push, and we overthink and we overthink. And I know, because I'm the queen of overthinking. Yet we fail to gain clarity on what the true purpose of our lives is. And I'm going to propose that instead of trying to constantly find your purpose when it clearly is just not coming to you in an instantaneous moment like we expect it to, is to begin building it step by step. Right? So the truth is that most people don't grow up knowing their purpose from childhood. I know that we've kind of been fed this belief that a lot of people just knew from the time they were 5 years old what they're passionate about, what they want to do for the rest of their life. But that is really not the average person. Most of us, definitely ourselves included, struggle with knowing what that purpose is well into adulthood.
Oh, yeah.
I think your dad, you asked him the other day that too, right? Like, when did you actually know what your true purpose was? Wasn't it like 40, like well into his 40s?
Yeah.
So please, it's normal. Don't fret if you don't have an extremely clear understanding of what that purpose is. The best advice I can give you.
Actually, 50s. Because
50s?
I think he just started doing this change to become a, international mobilizer, empowering essentially local churches to grow, to go and spread the gospel and be empowered with, again, education and training, leadership training specifically. And I said that it took him over I think 30 years of being a pastor to realize that that was a stepping stone for what he is
what
now
the real
doing.
Purpose is. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, our purpose can change over time.
Kind of evolves.
Right. Obviously, for a very long time, his purpose was to be a pastor.
Right.
But
can
now
have a
that
purpose for a season.
Evolved.
Can have a purpose for a season.
Exactly. So again, this is normal. And the best advice, therefore, I can give is to simply begin taking action, right? Take action. Don't let the uncertainty paralyze you into doing nothing, because that's what most people do. And the very fact that you're taking this course, that you're going through this right now, is to prove that you want to be one of the few who actually does something about the causes and the problems that you care about. Exactly. So the best advice I can give is take action in the right direction. And probably now you're going to ask, well, how do I know if it's the right direction? How do I know which direction is the right one?
Very valid question. There are some guidelines.
Yeah, I would suggest that you start asking yourself some of these questions. So number one, over the last 6 to 12 months, when have I felt most alive? This is a really good question.
Yeah.
And it may not be easy, but definitely try and think.
Take a deep breath.
Even if you had one moment over the past 6 to 12 months, when did you feel most alive? When were you most excited? When did you feel most passionate about something? Right? Yeah. And that will certainly help guide you in the right direction towards maybe what you're supposed to be doing for the rest of your life, what you're here for. Number two, What would you do with your life if you knew, what would I do with my life if I knew I couldn't fail? So ask yourself that. If you had no worry of failing, you knew it was going to happen, what would you do?
It's proven to succeed. What would you do?
Right. And don't limit yourself.
Dream. Just like
go big here.
See how far you can see and what you can see.
Number 3, what has been the greatest challenge that I've overcome so far in my life? So sometimes we cannot find what necessarily our purpose is by asking ourselves positive questions. Sometimes it has to go with the opposite, right? Sometimes it's what have been the most difficult times in my life? What have been the most painful times in my life? What have been the biggest obstacles and challenges I've overcome? And usually then we can find strengths in those moments, right? Because a lot of the times in trials, we find strengths that we have that we may not have realized we did before we were put into that extreme situation. Number 4, can I help others overcome similar challenges? Right, so as an example, let's say that you used to really, really struggle with your own personal self-esteem. Maybe if you have overcome that and you have been able to gain a certain level of confidence in your abilities and who you are, then don't you think there's some kind of ability that you may have to guide someone else through a similar journey, right? Or let's say you struggled with your health for a very long time. Let's say you had fibromyalgia and you found some natural ways to make that a lot less painful and to better your own health. Do you not think there are other people who are suffering like you used to be? There's always someone that you can help guide. I know sometimes we just overlook some of the things that we've been through and we don't think they're important. But really look at some of the things that you've overcome and that you've accomplished, and then think about how you might be able to help other people go through similar circumstances. Mm-hmm. And number 5, what is something I could never see myself not doing? So again, with a negative situation, right, with a negative question. Mm-hmm. If you can't think of something that you love to do all the time, well, how about turning it around and saying, what is something that I could never, ever give up? Right? What is something that I would absolutely be so heartbroken if I ever had to stop doing this? And that may give you, again, some kind of inkling into what exactly it is that you're truly passionate about.
Most of us already know deep inside what we need to do. Sometimes we refuse the calling. Other times, we're just afraid.
Yep.
Straight up.
Very true. So I said, let your mind wander here and not be limited by doubt and false beliefs. Just go for it. And so I have a little diagram here that just kind of shows where exactly your ultimate purpose for your personal brand should be located. So it's in the middle here of 4 different circles. One says you love it, so what you love. On the right, what the world needs, right? The world needs it. On the bottom, you're paid for it. And on the left, you are great at it. Okay, so that little section, the little red square, that is really an ideal world. And you can have that, which is where your ultimate brand purpose and organization or business should be located. You should love it. It shouldn't feel, you're going to have to work hard, but it shouldn't be something that you dread doing. You should genuinely love it, what you're doing. You're good at it. You're great at it. You're a master at it. No one can do it like you. And it's a skill that's valued, so you can be paid for it. It's a skill that other people want, or it's a result other people want from you that you can give them, so you can be paid well for it. And then lastly, which is inherently tied into purpose, it has to be something that the world actually needs. It has to be something that makes the world a better place, and that's a sweet spot. I just wanted to show you, to kind of visualize what a purpose, where it should actually be located, right? Yeah. It's a spot between all those 4 intersecting areas. Okay, and now we're going to get into brand core values. And again, I really loved putting this part of the presentation together.
This part becomes a compass for your branding. So pay extreme attention to this.
Absolutely. Okay, so your values are the heart of your personal brand. Values stand at the very core of your personal brand. They're the center from which everything radiates, including your brand voice, origin story, and persona. So again, these are things we're going to get into later, but the reason we start with purpose and values is because this is, again, where everything radiates from. So in essence, your core values are your guideposts. So as a metaphor, if your business is the ship, right, whether it's a business, nonprofit, if that's the ship that you're steering, then your core values is the compass. It is actually what is guiding every decision, every move that you make for your organization. So uncompromisable values that you stand for. So again, if you're wondering, well, I don't really know what my strong values are, I don't know what my brand values would be, well, you definitely have to figure these out. And I've given you some questions here so you can start figuring out exactly what those are for you. So first question, what values do you live, what values do you live your life by? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what values do you absolutely direct your own life by that are uncompromisable? You could never throw these out the window. Mm-hmm. Second one, what values can your business not survive without? So if you're thinking about your business, what is something that you stand for that your business it just wouldn't make sense? It would be out of alignment if you didn't have that value. What qualities do you admire in others? So whether it's your partner, your family, your friends, strangers, etc., right? If you ever come into contact with a stranger, maybe that might even be the most great example to use, because when someone does something, for example, kind for us that we don't expect, it's more likely we're going to really admire someone because we feel like they didn't have to do that for us, right? So maybe it's kindness. In a partner, maybe it's loyalty, right? You really have to have someone that you can trust, that you know is not going to stab you in the back or lie to you, right? So loyalty. So really think of what are the qualities in your favorite people in the world. What are those qualities that you look for? What causes are you most passionate about in the world? Okay, so if you are someone like me who maybe really has a strong calling towards like humanitarianism and philanthropy, what are the causes that you have donated to or that you donate to? Or what are some things in the news that you hear about that really just, you absolutely love hearing about this. You love hearing that they're doing well. You love hearing they're changing lives. What are those causes that you truly care about most, right? You have to learn about them. You have to keep being a part of them. Mm-hmm. And lastly, what triggered you to start your business, right? So good question, because a lot of us are put in different situations, and that's what led us to either whether it's quit our 9-to-5, start a business with our partner, start a business alone, start looking for other options to make money online, starting to see how we can make money to further a cause. Like what really was it that was the triggering moment that made you start your business in the first place? Mm-hmm. It's definitely some good questions. So again, I'll give you some personal examples of my own personal values that are completely uncompromisable in my business, and I aim to have them uncompromisable in my life as well. So on the top left, that is responsibility. So personal responsibility, right? So here it says successful people. They take responsibility for their failures, for their actions in general, right? Unsuccessful people, they blame others for their failures. So personal responsibility, whether it's in your relationships, it's for the actions that you do when no one's looking, it's your business, it's the choices you make, it's how much money you make, everything we're responsible for. Again, not to say that nothing happens outside of our control, of course, but we're always responsible for how we react and how we respond. And I really admire people who take full responsibility for their lives. And even though I struggle with it myself, I find that a very admirable quality, and I try to live up to it as best that I can. On the right is compassion. So a little quote here says, compassion for animals is intimately connected with goodness of character, and it may be confidently asserted that he who is cruel to an animal cannot be a good man. I absolutely believe in this. I have always been an animal lover since I was very young. Me and my mom have always taken in cats off the street. That was, kind of our thing. We would have lots of feral cats around that we would feed, and they would eventually pretty much move in. And my mom was a big animal advocate. She taught me
Yes.
from very young to respect them and to love them and to take care of them. And when I see someone being compassionate and loving and gentle towards an animal, I find that extremely admirable, and it builds a lot of trust between me and that person. I immediately feel a connection with that person, and that I can tell a lot from their character by the way they treat, from tiny to large, a little being that can do really nothing much for them as far as money. But I feel like that's a very admirable trait. I stand by compassion. I try in all I do. And the bottom one is integrity. So integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. So being honest, being authentic, being true and transparent. Integrity is extremely important. I personally don't think that any business can thrive without integrity as being one of their main values. I don't believe that any marriage can succeed without integrity being one of their main values. So to me, that is uncompromisable. So these are just some examples of what I believe are my 3 main values. And now to go on the opposite, if you're still having trouble thinking of what are your main values, well then you may want to go the opposite route. You may want to know what you don't stand for. So primary question, what makes your blood boil? What is a topic that you hear about that you just are extremely enraged about?
Yeah, seriously.
Right? It gets you very passionate about whether it's helping what that problem is or bringing justice to a certain cause, but just what is it that really just makes your blood boil and is something that you have to be involved in? What qualities do you despise in others? So not promoting that we despise other people, but what qualities do you despise in other people? So what are some circumstances in your life? Again, let's say someone has lied to you, right? So you may have a very big distaste for people that lie. You don't like liars. So think about some situation in your life that they rubbed you the wrong way, and you just do not tolerate that kind of quality or behavior in other people. And what is a topic or issue that you cannot keep silent about? So a lot of the times it is very hard for us to make a stand for what we believe in, but most of us will have even one issue or topic that no matter what it is, no matter who it is we have to say it to, we will say something. We will take a stand for that issue.
No doubt.
So really think about.
No doubt. We all have one.
A minimum, at least one. So on the opposite spectrum then, I gave you the values that I do stand for, and then therefore use the values that I do not stand for. So if the top left was responsibility, then I do not like to tolerate, I do not seek to have the quality in myself of making excuses, of blaming other people for all my problems, right? So whether it's my family, my friends, my community, my society, the world, does that mean I agree with everything? Absolutely not. But what it means is that I do not depend on other people to fix my problems for me, and think that by deterring the attention away from my own faults in my own life, that somehow I'm going to get to where I want to be. I realize that I need to be the one to take responsibility. So I don't like people that blame other people for everything in their life going wrong. On the top right, as you can see, this animal is clearly extremely sad, obviously at the hands of people who are very cruel. So cruelty, primarily cruelty, apathy towards animals, children, people who are things that are voiceless in the world. I do not take very kindly to that. I need to say something against it. There's been many situations in my life where I've had to stand up for an animal who has been in a less than stellar situation, whether it was being abused, being neglected, and that is something that I will never keep my mouth shut about till the day I die. And the bottom one is a little man who looks very nice and charming and very friendly, but then you can see his shadow is a little devil. So that to me is symbolic of a lack of integrity, right? So a lot of businesses, I would even say, have this persona, right? Their outside persona is very nice, it's very friendly, very likable, but when you see the actions they take that they hide, they have a deep, deep lack of integrity and moral standard. So do not stand for that. Also makes my blood boil, right? So know what you stand for and what you don't. And although it will be uncomfortable at times, and it will, to stand by your convictions, the values that you stand for must be clear and prolific within your personal branding. Because if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And the actual fact is that people like people that stand up for something they believe in. They like people that are prolific. Doesn't mean everyone's going to like you, but it means the ones that do, the ones that are drawn to your message, are going to be extremely more loyal than they are to someone who's kind of on the fence about everything, that doesn't want to give an opinion about a topic. So yeah, it is difficult. It's very difficult. Till this day, I still have anxiety sometimes about sharing what my true opinions are about certain topics, but you will fall for anything if you don't stand for something. So know what you stand for, know what you don't, and never compromise those values in your personal brand for anything.
Yeah.
Especially money.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If you are not standing in something that you really deeply believe in, it's going to be very hard, and listen to my words, very hard to move forward through not only the challenges that you're having right now, but the ones that are coming ahead. They're going to be bigger and scarier. And if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. A man that builds his house upon the sand is going to lose his house when the storm comes. But you must build the house upon the rock. And that is that something.
Exactly. Those are your values. It's your purpose.
Of course,
and your
it's your
values.
purpose. It's your purpose.
So again,
these are the reason why
core.
God created you.
Exactly. So these are the core of your business. So I wanted to start from these for your personal brand, and now we can go on to more of the external, right? How you now presenting yourself to your audience. But again, keep these in mind as you go, and yeah, I hope that you take this part extremely, extremely seriously.
Amazing. Your brand persona. Oh, I absolutely love this section. It's taken me so long, probably about 10 years to put this together with this level of clarity I believe that you will get, this level of inspiration, and most importantly, application for your business, where you'll be able to know who you really are. Because ultimately, we show up and we do the work according to who we become and who we are becoming. That's the most powerful piece. You know, there's people out there that have like nothing, like nothing of this online, like nothing, but they're so powerful in their presence, just like Jesus was, that they can show up in any room, in any place, at any time, and be like such a center of influence. With couple words, they move a room. And here's the key. This is the real secret, my friend. A brand persona is about consistency. This is one of the main things that separates 6-figure earners from 7-figure earners. The more you show up, the more you position yourself by mere repetition. Mastery comes through repetition. And I love this picture here of my buddy, Bruce Lee. Him and I used to hang out in high school.
Oh, back in the day.
Back in the day. This guy is such a tank when it comes to repetition, and not only have dominated his flesh or his, body, but his soul and his thinking, to be able to be so precise in like everything, but it only comes to repetition, same as an instrument, same as art, same as anything. And it's no different with your persona. The more you speak out, the more you show up, the higher version of yourself you will become. There's the whole alchemy of self too, actually, that we talked about in the beginning. But I want to give you 3 ways to achieve positioning. And as we talked about, and positioning is how you are positioned, seen, or perceived inside the minds of your ideal clients. So here are 3 ways actually that you'll be able to achieve this positioning. And we already said one of them with the example of Bruce Lee. Be the embodiment of who they want to be. This is powerful. Number 2, be the authority they look up to. Okay, again, like leadership is so key here, and it's tough. That's why if you don't have your values grounded, your purpose grounded, like my wife shared, this stuff is going to be really hard because you're going to be trying to manufacture this. And believe me, I have messed up a lot in my business because I didn't have the right values. So I was like a wave, like more like a leaf carried by the wind from one side to the other. Why? Because I would respond to the next best idea, and here is something though that I did do, or I tried to do as much as possible. I try to become the media. This is one of the earlier lessons I did learn that actually started shifting things, because even though we've jumped from different things and done different business ventures and projects, the fact that we've been able to consistently create content, at least, few times a month, I would say at the very least, when we were kind of like not, out there much. But even that would still bring in revenue, would still bring in income. So become the media, become the embodiment. Because when you do that, you're going to become your values. When you become your values is the next level. Like when Jesus walked the earth, he became love. He became service. And he also became sin, who knew no sin in the cross.
This reminds me of what we read earlier when you asked me my favorites. Quote we were reading in Romans. And there was one that said something about the ones who are doers, not just hearers.
Exactly.
So in this case, it's not just saying these are your values. It's about becoming the embodiment of those values. Because words without actions are meaningless. You have to do it.
And I want to give you a few awesome examples so you can start thinking of yourself as this persona, right? And again, we are not trying to put on a show, unless, of course, you're the showman. But this is not about you pretending to be someone you are not. This is about starting from the inside with your values and your purpose and, all the different things that we already discussed with the internal and external purpose, and then presenting it inside a wrapper, right? You'll recall I gave you this right here, right? Like the look that Captain America has derives directly from his values, where he stands for all that is just, for all that is good, for America, the hero, right? And so all these heroes right here, and I think there's some villains probably in here. Maybe are these all heroes? I honestly don't know some characters, but yeah, I think.
That guy nice?
Right here. I don't know. They might all be good guys. But either way,
we'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
But either way, though, whether good heroes, superheroes, or villains, it comes from their internal, like
all of their internal values and their stories are wrapped around those values.
Yeah. So who are you? Are you the hustler, the badass? Are you the kind one? Are you the reporter? And become it. Just become it. Have fun with it, because sometimes we're so afraid of what people are gonna think that it makes it very uncomfortable for us, and we fall into traps of self-doubt. But look, like this honestly was amazing. I ever sent it to one of my buddies because I was struggling for a long time with this too, or I kept trying new ones. And it's okay to try ones, by the way. Go ahead and try. It's better to take action. Like, hear me well on this. But once you keep doing consistency, keep showing up, then you'll start finding your voice. And the more you find your voice, the more clarity you're going to have. The more clarity, the more certainty. And once again, I ask you, looking at this, who are you and what are you driven by? Personally, I love exploring spirituality, and so I'm the explorer. And I love freedom. I want to stand for freedom. Freedom from your job. Freedom from the system. Freedom from sin. Freedom from your old self and the shackles of anxiety and self-doubt. Freedom, right? Like, that's what I preach.
I love that as well. And definitely, I think for me also, the providing structure.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the innovation, the service.
The caregiver.
Yeah. think providing structure and harmony to the world. That's,
You love that.
I think, why.
Yeah, you're really good at that. She provided a lot of structure and harmony to my chaos. That's for sure. That's for sure.
And you made me explore more.
Mm.
You brought some adventure into my life.
It's true. And then I think we're both kind of a little bit of sage.
Yeah.
I think we both kind of like that persona as a whole. We love the magician. We talk a lot about power too.
Yeah.
About leaving a legacy. A little bit of an outlaw too. We want to,
go against the grain.
Go against, some of the traditional things because we believe in innovation. And so, of course, you're going to have a combination of this, but what's your primary?
You got to pick,
What's your primary? That's what I'm asking you. And here is this thing. Here's the punch, what makes an amazing personality? Polarization. You need to be prolific. You need to pick an enemy. You need to take a stand. You need to do this because if not, it is not going to work. Yeah, just a little dramatic silence there because I really want you guys to get it. 3 key questions to discover this. Again, who is your enemy? What boils your blood? What are your unpopular opinions?
Yep. So similar to the values, right? You have to look at, if you can't find what you like, what do you really not like? And then you will find what the opposite of that is what you do stand for. But yes, being prolific, it's important, but you have to be brave to do that.
Yesterday, I had a crazy dream. I dreamed that I woke up in the middle of the night, right in my living room. And as I walk out, I saw a very large and slender shadow of a man that wanted to hurt me. He pulled out a gun on me, a little revolver, silver, and I felt fear.
So scary.
Yeah, super scary. But I knew it was spiritual battle. And you know what I did? I launched myself and grabbed the gun. And, I tried to grab the gun. And I started with my other hand assisting, twisting his hand towards him so that he would shoot himself.
Yeah,
I don't know how that happened either.
Even within a dream, I don't think I would have been able to do that.
It's weird because I don't remember being lucid in it. I don't. I just remember almost like, I just remember remembering as funny that sounds, the dream and what had happened. But I was actually surprised and relieved in a way that, you know what, I'm going to fight. I'm not going to just give up. I'm not going to be scared and run. I'm going to fight, and I'm going to move that gun to the other side. And that encouraged me. I woke up encouraged, even though it was a scary dream. I woke up encouraged.
But that's exactly what being prolific is, right? It's what fighting for a cause is. You turn the gun on this slender man, shadow man figure, even though he's much bigger than you. And so that's what it's all about, right? Even if you don't know if you're going to win, even if there's only a slight chance you're going to win.
I woke up without knowing what was the outcome of that.
Even if you don't know if you're going to win, even if you highly know that the odds are not in your favor, it's still worth doing it anyways. So what is that for you, right? What is that one thing that you're battling that even if you know it's not a high chance that you will actually win the battle, it's still worth fighting for. Right? Like the environment would have been a big example of that a few years ago. No one believed that, anyone could fight these big oil corporations, but yet here we are.
Right.
It's slow. It's slow progress, but it can happen.
Right.
But without the faith those people had to battle the enemy, no changes would have come about.
And here's a quirky story when it comes to being prolific and not going too far. I just didn't even remember. Was it Russell Brunson that said the whole nudist Buddhist?
I don't think it was Russell Brunson with
All
that
right,
one.
I'll just go on with this story. I read from one of my mentors, one of my resources, that, hey, if you were to, go out there and say, hey, I'm nudist, hey, you know what? There's a lot of people in Europe and other countries that are like okay with it, and they're like, yeah, it's a little crazy, but it's prolific. it's acceptable in a way, and it makes money, you know, like as crazy as that sounds. But and being a Buddhist, as well, is like, yeah, it's like it's a little out there, you know, not a lot of people, you know, just in certain cultures, certain places. But if you went to go out there and said, hey, I'm a Buddhist now, I'm gonna become a monk, oh, you know, so it's prolific, but it's kind of like, well, you know, that's kind of cool. But if you say you're gonna become a nudist Buddhist, you have stepped into the crazy zone.
Now you're in the crazy zone.
In the crazy zone.
Yeah, because the puddle of people, it's too small.
It's way too small.
It's way too small. The amount of people that are actually going to be okay with both being a nudist and being a Buddhist, as an example,
probably
it's a very tiny pool. So
yeah. So you gotta be careful between the crazy zone and the blue ocean. Like, you know, like prolific is the blue ocean. Crazy zone is you've gone too far, just like anything. Again, right. Wisdom's in the middle, but not the middle of the whole scale, because the middle of the whole scale is mainstream. So you got to pick, are you left prolific or right prolific? Well, depends on your industry, depends on some of those things, but just keep that in mind. I believe that, again, with the knowledge of the avatar, if you've, you know, done that lesson successfully and fill out the sheet. I hope you guys are filling out the sheets, by the way. Just taking a quick moment to let you know that, because if you do not do the sheets, it's going to be really hard, because sometimes we think things, but we forget. And that's what's happened to us a lot. We like said, oh yeah, we had like an awesome conversation, a huge epiphany, but then we don't stick to it. And then you keep switching. So you must write it down, and you must have a folder where you're putting this stuff that you can reference back and doing this.
You must do it, not just hear it, do it.
Yeah. And here's the truth. The reputation that you possess, your brand, your name, is the cornerstone of power. Your reputation depends on your brand authority, and your authority amplifies your strength. Okay, key here. Authority amplifies your strength or your power. And here is something interesting. People like being told, psychology has proven that people like being told what to do when they are part of something greater than themselves that gives them a better reputation or a higher status increase. Mm-hmm. All sales, hear me well, I learned this is from Russell Brunson, Expert Secrets. All sales boil down to status increase. And so, you know, when you really are like, yes, you know, of course, like, what are you really selling? And we talk about confidence, intelligence, powers, wealth, right? But they're all inside the bag of status.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's all the way from, like it says, their physical appearance, something very external, like cosmetics or a car,
right,
all the way to even philanthropy.
Yeah, happiness, compassion, like, it's all status. All right, just right. It's all status.
They're all things that we perceive as making us better.
Yeah, better. Yeah, your status just increases. You become more enriched. You grow. You are perceived as a higher social, you know, level in the eyes of the world.
It's like significance, where you may get significance from the car that you drive to the house that you live in, and you can even get a significance from being needed in a charity or being needed as a mother.
Yeah.
Significance.
And you know what? It just kind of hit me that we put the information in a very specific way, because you must have already gone through understanding the 6 basic human needs that we talked about from Tony Robbins.
It all ties back in.
And you also remember talking about the different drivers and the emotion. And so when you're absorbing it in that order, when you get to the status one, you're able to still distill it and differentiate. Because if it's too macro is this super, like the status one. It's like, it's the main one. It's like all sales is status, yes. But you must know which ones are then your, what you're really selling, and then what are their drivers, and you know, it all kind of ties together. That's why obviously it's not easy sometimes to make some of this stuff work, and it takes some effort. It takes some, trial and error. But people are silently waiting to be led to a higher status. They are, we all are, you know, that's why we all follow people in some way or form. Speaking of power and authority, Jesus gave his disciples in Luke 9:4 power and authority. Let us read that. Then he called the 12 disciples together and gave them power and authority over all devils and to cure diseases. This doesn't challenge your faith. Well, if we're disciples, we must ask God to give us power and authority, because that is the highest level. You know, we talked about here. So I was trying to make you guys do connections. Your reputation depends on your brand authority, and authority amplifies your strength, right? So that's why power and authority. And here are practical ways to put it into action with 4 pillars to gaining authority online. Number 1, vulnerability. Don't be afraid to go deep in your conversations and admit your flaws. But of course, find the balance like anything. But hey, me telling you I fail in business, that's a vulnerability. Me telling you that I do not have it all figured out, it's a vulnerability. And a lot of people are trying to paint this Instagram perfect picture. You know what? Not us. We tried. For a while, we were like, you know, with doubt and with all these different things. And on each level, we've overcome a level of doubts and a level of fears. But being able to then go back to the audience, go back to Facebook, go back to what you're doing and accept it, requires vulnerability.
Right. Yeah, and with vulnerability, again, there's a balance between it. It doesn't mean you have to tell your audience every mistake that you've ever made in your entire life. But what it does mean is that you can share failures, mistakes, shortcomings as it relates to the journey that you're bringing them through to.
Exactly.
Right? Because the whole point, it's empowering definitely to be vulnerable. But at the end of the day, your vulnerability should be helping your audience build more belief in themselves.
Right.
Because they're looking at you, right? They're following you, following your footsteps. They want to be where you are. And so when you share things that you've done wrong or things that you still don't have figured out, it gives them hope, because they're saying, well, hey, look, this person's doing this and they're successful doing this, then I can do it. If they still have doubts, they still have worries, then I can do it too then.
Right.
And that's what really it should be doing.
Exactly. Passion, care more than other people in your niche. This is, pretty straightforward. The more you give, the more they'll be able to trust you too. Competence, share as much value and information as you can. Why? Because as we talked about, consistency, like Bruce Lee, showing up, sharing, caring, vulnerable, and all that ties with certainty. Tell them that you're good, but be a humble beast. Mm-hmm. Humble beast. Right? And this one's hard because sometimes we become full of pride.
Yeah.
And we struggle with our ego.
Especially in the marketing and business world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And instead of that, we want to help find the balance. And it's been a struggle for us too, to get out of, these personas of ego that we see a lot in this industry,
right.
To find a balance between vulnerability and certainty. So AKA, it's okay to admit your shortcomings. It's okay to admit what you're not good at. It's okay to mistake your past, to tell about your past failures. But it's also equally okay to admit about some things that you're good at.
Yeah.
Right? How else are you going to get clients, and how else are you going to serve people if you have a sense of fake humility where you can't even admit the things that you're good at?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You obviously have to find a balance between vulnerability and certainty. Right? Admit you're not good at everything, but admit there are some things that you are above average at, and those are the things presumably they're going to pay you for.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? One of the interesting things here is that when you go out there and apply these 4 things, you will stand out so much, because most people are not willing to be vulnerable or care more than other people or
Mm-hmm.
share as much other people, or actually show up and say, listen, I suck at this, and that, but I can help you with blank.
Exactly.
So I want to tell you a very personal story. And I think that this will also reinforce that people remember how they felt, not necessarily the details. But when I was around 12 years old, my mom and I went on a little trip. And I remember very well, we went out of the city because I remember seeing mountains and a highway. I was with her and my mom was sharing with me the gospel. And at the time, I remember I was just very curious about it, because we had been reading the Bible, etc. But I was like, I don't know if I've ever felt it myself. I don't know if I've ever made that decision. I've known a lot about it. I've been read about it, but I wasn't sure. And my mom asked me, do you know with certainty, where will your soul go if you were to die today? And the answer was no. I didn't know. She asked me then, would you like to know how you can have eternal life and be sure that if you die today, you will go to heaven? And I said, yeah, I would love to. And then she said, okay, pray this prayer with me. It said, recognize that I am a sinner. Recognize that you need Jesus in your life to pave the way, because he is the way, the truth, and the life. And then we kept chatting and chatting. And then I remember, I think my mom even stopped the car and we said a prayer. And something overtook me and I started crying. And I hugged my mom just like Jesus is holding this man. And it was a beautiful experience. But funny thing, I don't even remember where we were going. But I remember so well how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the master keys. We don't remember information and details as much as we remember how we felt. It's the emotion that differentiates a brand. Mm-hmm. And you see, how do you feel right now after I just told that story? Took you somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Took you somewhere, and maybe that's one of the things that you'll remember when it comes to these subjects or topics. Mm-hmm. Just like the stories we've shared about the childhood and some of the other ones. Mm-hmm. So here are some advanced strategies to manage your brand. Don't defend yourself and your business. Don't slam people publicly. Self-deprecating humor can be good if used correctly in the right situations, but don't ask people to to host you in their show or program or website publicly. It will weaken your positioning. Again, very different asking for feedback and telling them to, help you figure out what they want to learn or what they want to do, or what they want to know more about. Yes, but being like, hey, would you, would you host me in your show? Would you? Careful. I rather tell you to make relationships through personal message and reach out so you have a base. All right, let's talk about your origin story. In entertainment, an origin story is an account or backstory revealing how a character or group of people become a protagonist or an antagonist, right? We're playing with this whole hero and villain, and it adds to the overall study of a narrative, often given reasons for their intentions, right? We're always making connections. And so when there's a story attached to the why of what you're seeing with your eyeballs, it matters. So why does your origin story matter, okay? And first, I will just say quickly that when I first started doing this, maybe 10 years ago, I can't even believe it's been that long since I launched my first little company where I was designing websites and business cards for people. And, I wasn't doing it full time. Of course not. I couldn't. I was only making a couple $100. But I realized that the people that bought from me were the people that knew my origin story.
There you go. Was that DTK Productions?
That was DTK Productions. Yeah, exactly. And funny enough, the name of DTK Productions was based on my origin story. And that's why people liked it too. Because DTK it standard for Don't Tell Carrie. And Carrie was my buddy's dad. Jonathan, you're watching this. Cheers. But yeah, we both would take his dad's camera, shoot a bunch of awesome stuff that we wanted while he was on a trip, because he traveled a lot, missions and stuff like that. Record a bunch of stuff, delete everything from the tape, clean off the camera, throw it back in. Don't tell Kay. Don't tell Kay, baby. That was the key. Don't tell Carrie, but don't tell Kay. That was just like a thing that would say. Right? And so I
kind of questionable.
That's kind of questionable, I'm not gonna lie about it. But it was what inspired. I wasn't gonna take those values, careful. But I was gonna take the inspiration, because that was the time where I started making videos for the first time in a more, serious manner, because we presented them in our high school, etc. And so that was, thing. So it does 5 things for you. Gives you business personality, builds an emotional connection with them, shows how your business came to life / your purpose. And of course, in a world where people have a ton of choices, your origin story may be the deciding factor. This is very powerful.
One of the main things that can help differentiate you.
Yeah.
Right? If, let's say you're both selling the same kind of services, or even probably won't be the case, let's even say the exact same product, right? Because let's be honest, like, there's a lot of companies that sell pretty much the same product. They come from the same factory. The only difference is sometimes their brand origin story.
Yeah.
Right? And someone may really connect with that, and that's going to be why they buy from you.
Yeah.
Because they connect with where you come from, where your roots are,
yeah,
what your family's like.
Yeah. And sharing your story contributes to building authority. Sometimes people think, well, if my story makes me look weak, et cetera, so remember the vulnerability piece we just shared with you. Those are actually ways to build authority, which is perhaps why Paul said that I will glory in my weaknesses so that his power is made perfect in me. It's very powerful stuff. It's kind of like upside down, and this is my story in a nutshell. Okay. I'm just going to tell it literally in like 1 minute for you. I was born and raised in Mexico with my family here you see in the picture. And when I was about 18, 19 years old, I tasted death after a trip going with my buddy where I almost drowned. But that day, God saved me. And I knew I had a purpose. I didn't know what. I still, building upon it, yes. But I knew I had a purpose, and that gave me a motivation and a drive. Right? So that becomes my hook. Now all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait, what? You almost died? Right? Now that led me to make a very big decision to come to Canada. And it wasn't easy at first. I honestly smiling there, but I was not that happy. I was more kind of like trying to force myself to be like of good cheer. But those were hard times, man. Mm-hmm. I got scammed. I got, very little money for like long days of like just working on construction, busting my back. Like no family here. I felt like super lonely, but I found my love. Right? I found my love right here, my love of my life. But when we launched our business and at the first, sorry, my cat here was going nuts.
Yes, man.
It's funny because literally I think he just got scared and seeing his picture here. Seriously, that was so funny timing because I did fall into an anxiety and unfulfillment. Oh, he's angry. Anyways, it's just a funny representation. But I did not want to get out of bed, and that was very confused and unfulfilled. And it still happens some days, but I gotta keep it in check. And I overcame it. I understood at least the tools to overcome it, which were in a closer connection with God, meditation, and some of the routines that we've now put in place. So now that became part of my story where I can now empower other people. Doesn't mean I have it all figured out. Doesn't mean I don't fall into anxiety and fulfillment other times. But what it does mean is that I know how to renew my faith, which is that picture right there of me freaking flying off a airplane at like 220 miles an hour.
That was his birthday gift.
Yeah. And for me, it was a leap of faith. That's what it represented. And I was visually making it happen here. And I did it just more as a commitment to God and to myself that I would always remember how he saved me from that time when I almost drowned and how he's carried me through each part, which has led to now building what we're doing or we're about to launch actually at the date of this event right here. the new renaissance. And this is a transformational journey, and I've already delivered, parts of it to different people, different clients, but this is all have led to this time, which is so key, and so transformative as a coach and a teacher, that I never even thought that, right? And in one little frame here, you can take a really good look at, like, who am I, right? Maybe it took me more than a minute, but you can tell it fairly quick. And so your story sews your business and your life together. It creates a compelling story, and it allows you to create a product around it, just like Walt Disney has done. Every single Disney movie follows this stuff. Why? Because when you create a powerful story like Lion King, then you can create a ton of merch around it.
Best movie ever.
I knew it. She was going to say that. So brand storytelling,
Part of my origin
key
story.
question. Yeah, it is part of your origin story.
It really is.
It really is. What have you done that has surprised everyone? What's the big scene in your life movie, right? Like one of the big scenes, these are all big scenes, from like my childhood to Tasting Death, and again, you see different points of conflict here, at the very least two or three of them, right? Because they become those life movies, those peaks and valleys that we talked about, those mountains and valleys that we talked about in the mindset module. But number 3, when did everything finally click about your why as it related to your niche or topic? It's a good question. When? Can you recall that time? Like I can recall that story of me knowing Christ, or
maybe that's something you're still figuring out.
Or is it something you're still figuring out?
These questions are going to help.
They're going to help you open up.
Right.
So how to craft your origin story? Okay, you must go back to a relevant story beginning, right? So before you start putting it here, I hope you have filled out the storytelling sheets on the last module. There's a reason and a why to all of this. And I'm so passionate because it's taking us freaking long to put it together. So I hope you're filling them out.
Please do that.
Because it will help you. Because when you get over here, now you can plug them in, these pieces. Don't start by asking yourself how you can connect it to your niche right away. I hope you've already crafted and at least explore some of these stories in the last module. And now you're just going to select those pieces like I did here. I didn't make this like that. It took me so much. There's so many other pieces, but to put them into one small origin story, you need to know what your hook is, which is number 2. You need to know what your internal and external journey is. Remember the internal and external purpose? And remember the hero's 2 journeys from the previous week? All this tying together. I hope you're making connections here. But what are your or their reasons for caring? Right, as it relates to your origin story, right? So again, like if I go back to mine, like I talk to a lot of people that have that anxiety and unfulfillment and self-doubt.
Right, and good to note that anxiety and unfulfillment was largely due to where we were in business.
Right.
And so that's why you would care.
Right.
It wasn't just
because you're like, man, I don't want that.
It was, our business maybe not being in alignment with our values. It was not finding a meaning in what we were doing and feeling overwhelmed by it and not enjoying it.
Right.
And so it matters to you because we don't want you to end up in the same situation.
Yeah.
We want to renew your faith that you can have a profitable and purposeful business organization.
Right.
And that you can have something that fulfills you and make a real difference in the world.
Yeah. Right. And even if I didn't have that, because I know some of you guys I think I heard it actually, you guys thinking about it right now. Being like, well, but what if I'm not even in the niche yet? This is my first time, yada, yada, yada. Like, you don't have any kind of background. Well, even if I didn't have that, I would go with number 2 of Tasting Death, and how that experience was so powerful that inspired me to do what I am doing. And I'm sure you have one like in your life because we've all gone through stuff. So you just have to link it. All right. And so, here. And so now I want to talk to you about how to create your tagline, right? So hopefully you've been following this and we have a sheet that you'll be able to do as well to create this. But take a look at this, kind of shift gears back to the external now, right? What you're going to be presenting to the world. Like, so I know sometimes like we're jumping back and forth. I even felt a little abrupt. I'm like, oh crap. Yeah. We're like talking about the tagline, right? Cause we could be talking about like the hook and story for so long. And that is really who you become. But as my wife shared at the very beginning of the presentation, it's a combination between who you are and how your audience perceives you to be and what they're seeing. So that starts with the tagline. And I think one of my favorites here is Think Different from Apple. I think I also like the Just Do It from Nike. And these are powerful, guys. So I'm going to give you practical steps, 7 steps to create your tagline. Number 1, write down words and phrases people describe you with, and what resonates with your brand values and personality, right? Again, there's a process to this madness. That's why we give it in this order. I hope you're doing it. Number 2, remove the ones that don't resonate with you. Okay? Make a list and then cross out the ones that don't resonate with you. But you can identify a common pattern in number 3. You'll start making connections of, oh yeah, you know what? These are all kind of the same theme. Or, oh, they all kind of like, talk about this or that. And when you combine them into categories, then you can write a small paragraph for each category. This is key, guys, because it allows you to expand your mind into like some of these values and some of these, phrases and words that people use or that you believe are important to yourself and to your brand. And then you narrow it down into one little sentence per category. And you finally merge them into one sentence. Okay, just follow the process. Believe me, you will come with an amazing tagline like this. It just works. It's a mental process that it distills down information, extracts it from your brain, and puts it into that. And of course, you must be asking, how do I know if I'm on the right track? Or how do I know if I'm off track? Well, here are 3 things that your tagline must do. Number 1, it expresses an important brand attribute, okay? Back to your values, back to your beliefs. Number 2, it supports your positioning, right? This goes back to the persona. Like, is it the freedom and explorer? Is it the, outlaw? Or is it the preacher or the badass? Like, how is it supporting that positioning? How people perceive you in their mind, how you're going to be placed, inserted into their brains. Number 3, bring a little bit of mystery and edge, okay? You don't want to say everything just so plainly. Sometimes a little salt is required. And here's a good test question. Can this tagline describe one of my competitors? And if the answer is no, that's good. You have a solid tagline. If you can describe them, you might want to tweak it a bit. Mm-hmm. Jan, what's the secret sauce?
Secret sauce?
Want me to tell you what's the secret sauce?
I'm going to say it's something that has a persuasive punch.
Use analogies. The clever use of analogies is an amazing thing for taglines. Look at the Dollar Shave Club. They want you to save money and save time. So look how smart. Just shave time, shave money. Easy. You know exactly, like, it's such a clever little tagline. I love it. It's why they made millions of dollars and they sold it, I think, already. State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. It gives you that picture. You're like, you envision probably like a nice green lawn and just be like, hey, neighbor.
Yeah. Or a neighbor like bringing you over like a nice pie or something.
Right, just a good neighbor. Verizon, can you hear me now? Good. It's a communications and cell phone company, right? So it's so interesting, which, by the way, is competitor with Virgin Mobile, which was the Richard Branson one. But yeah, very, very clever. So now it's time to talk about the external stuff. I'm talking about now your identity, how people are gonna see you, like your face, your face in the online world. What is the visual identity? Well, your visual identity is simply a visual representation of your internal values, beliefs, and personality traits of your personal brand or your company brand. So here's the thing. The first impression does matter. Logos, images, colors, type. These 4 things are really going to determine a lot of how they perceive you. They're wrapping with your words and your message and your values and your, origin story, and everything we've been talking about is going to be sitting. It's the shirt you throw on, the cap you put on, the shoes you put on before going out of your house.
And although we'd like to say that we don't judge people based on their external appearance, and it's good not to try to make a bunch of assumptions, but the truth is that we do it, right? Even if it's a little bit, you're definitely making a judgment on the way someone dresses, or the way their hair looks, or the uniform they're wearing. And a prime example would be if you see someone in a cop outfit walking down the street,
right,
and you go up to a cop, and someone's trying to hurt you, and you say, officer, help me. And they look at you and say, just because I'm wearing this cop outfit doesn't mean that I'm a cop. Well, you'd be confused, right? You're going to make an assumption that the person wearing that uniform is probably a cop, right? Because of the associations we have with the color of it, the symbols on it, all these different things, right?
Right.
So although we're not promoting that you just judge everyone based on the external appearance, there is some value in the way that you present yourself and your brand.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a great example how Apple used it to reinforce his positioning. Think differently, right? So it's all in this value of like innovation. Sorry, no beige. Every single computer. I remember my computer was freaking beige.
It was mine.
Yeah, everyone's was. And then Apple just like tiptoes on his Jordans and comes up with all these awesome colors and just like makes a statement. Pretty awesome. But what is the main goal of this visual identity? What's the number one purpose? Because people get it confused here, and sometimes they spend so much time working on the visuals that they forget the purpose. And it's easy to be caught in perfectionism and status increase, trying to be the fanciest. Believe me, I've done the fanciest. But I don't even boast in that anymore because it doesn't have as much value as what we're teaching you right now. To get people to imagine themselves working with you. And I'm sorry, let me just say quickly, I've actually sold way more money without a lot of this fancy stuff than I did when I put all my emphasis and focus on the fancy stuff. Mm-hmm. So just so you know. External. Yeah, because it can be a crazy time like sucker, but you don't really need it as much. Not anymore. Before, that was one of the points of differentiations. Now, not as much. To get people to imagine themselves working with you or your product and feel the emotions that your brand communicates. Peace, freedom, joy, compassion, integrity, unity, in a matter of seconds. That's the key. Just a feeling that you absorb like that. So here are your elements, your brand board elements. Colors matter. Go to Pinterest and we'll provide these resources, so I won't spend too much time here. But they stem from your values and the feel of your brand. Typography. Choose no more than 4 font types, but 2 are recommended. Again, we'll provide these resources where you can do this for absolutely free. Your logo, give them the colors, examples, and feel around. And we say them, I mean Fiverr, because I'm going to send you to Fiverr. And with $5, you'll be able to buy $5, $10, $20, even $50 if you want something like super or with a ton of options or versions or whatever. But keep it simple, though. Don't overthink it. Just give it to them. Tell them some examples, and feel that, again, all this will derive from the origin story, from the values, from your persona, and all these other things we've been talking about here. So do it in order. Do not skip it. What's your brand symbol? Well, the symbol is very powerful. The symbol, literally, with one look, it gives you a certain feeling. With a couple seconds, right? Like, let me direct your attention to Amos. I was saying before, Disney. What do you feel when you feel Disney? Fun, childhood memories. Mm-hmm. You feel like magical, maybe.
Yeah, right? Reminds me of my birthday parties.
Birthday parties.
To watch The Lion King, eating McDonald's fries.
Right, exactly.
There's McDonald's, the Golden Arches.
Exactly. We have some questionables here as well, I just realized. And
whatever are you looking at?
yeah, but all of them, again, they are attached to a certain feeling, right? MTV.
They succeed in you knowing what it is.
Exactly.
Right away.
They succeed. So symbols are powerful communication devices. Brand styling and design for any budget. I've put together here this 3 major blocks so that you don't spend a lot of time, but you create beautiful brand in a matter of 1 day of effort. You're doing this. Spend $10 to $20 on Fiverr. The real secret is finding a designer you like and being very descriptive with your values. This is a little more tactical, of course. Your feel, your style, your personality, and a lot of examples of other brands you like. It's cool to have a logo because it makes it almost like official that your values are now there. Makes it official that you're launching something. You know, when it's just an idea, etc., or even at this point, you should be having already your Facebook group. You should be having content. You should be talking to people. You should be already closing deals. Some of our students already have made money before even coming to this point. And I'm talking about people that have already spent time building those connections and interacting with other people before even worrying about all this design stuff. Sometimes people just go and they just put on their name and they just go ahead, but everything ties back. Number 2, get tasteful stock photos. Use Pexel.com, Unsplash. We're going to be showing you this stuff as well. And there's free images, guys. It's so amazing. They're free. You can use them. You can throw them on backgrounds, on banners, on promos, and on Canva that is also free. That's why I was telling you that I used to charge a lot of money for logos and design. But as it has commoditized due to everyone and their dog learning Photoshop, Canva, and all this Fiverr and all these different things, it makes the visual matter less and the story and values matter more. Mm-hmm. That's what it does, guys. That's what it does. Before, yeah, of course, when computers started like just popping and like designers just started like coming out there, wow, it was a huge hit. Like, but it was so fast, guys. Like 10 years gone, like done. And now we're like 2019 right now, the time of the recording. Holy cow. Like I cannot be out there trying to sell these super expensive logos. There's some amazing guys that are doing it for like $20. Mm-hmm. Seriously. That's just because of the level of entry, right? Like anyone now can just go ahead and like spend a very little money to do that with a guy that has a computer in India that is just like a beast of design that literally is all he does. like I'm telling you, it's times have changed. So I want to give you some tangible examples of feel and style that is good. And I did this a little bit in honor of my wife here because they're all animals. They're all animal logos.
I was just seeing that.
Yeah. But they're so nice. Like each one gives you like that sheep one, just that simplicity. Bull tender. Look at that. It's like making a statement, right? Like hardcore.
Like strength, bravery.
Yeah. Again, minimal with the fox, minimal over there with Animalian, with this other little horse over here. Just examples of the feel, right, of the style of keeping it simple. And here are actual examples of some of the ones that we've personally done.
Our journey.
You like it, eh? You like seeing it all in one place. I enjoy putting this together because, we've literally have had multiple different projects that we've launched for different reasons. Some have been blogs, some had been before I even started the company, like the Revcon one, building and contracting. I did that for a little while in my construction days. When I was starting to mix like my sales and marketing with like my building and interlocking and, things that I knew. As well as like, look at the feel. This is probably my favorite logo on earth. And I didn't design this. My amazing designer, Chris, did it. But it was with the values and with the feel that we provided for him. And so he was able to, that's what happens when you work with an amazing designer that just gets how to translate values and feel and all that into visual representations, because it gives you this feeling of like modern, but like organic with that drop of water right there. Like what a powerful symbol. And we were selling essential oils. So
that's supposed to be, the V is supposed to be, a drop inside of a flower.
Inside of a flower.
And that's where essential oils, as we know, come from. So it worked absolutely perfect.
And that happened after a rebrand for Planet over there, which was a company that was selling travel products. And we sold like 30 grand or so of travel products in revenue, in just general revenue. But believe me, the transition from like Planet to Kevita took some of that inspiration, but also embodying the other fields. So you can see how brands evolve, right? These are great examples of how brands evolve, all the way to like Aero Media, to the Zen Entrepreneurs that we wrote for a while when we were like meditating a lot and traveling. And, each one has had its purpose, as well as the La Loca Cat Lady. You're probably wondering, what is that one?
Who's that gal in the corner?
Who's that gal? That's you, gal. Right? When she was building an audience, with literally talking about cats and sharing things that were valuable to people in that niche as well. And she made some money. Guys, I'm telling you, you can do this in every single niche. That's why I bring you this example. So you know that concepts, principles, strategies that we're giving you are 100% true. Examples that use stock photos tastefully. Okay. And we talked about some of these photos that you can get in Unsplash and some of these places that will provide for you. But look at this. Beautiful. And it's so easy to do nowadays, right? You throw in a picture, you put in some text, and you got your idea out, right? So again, don't spend a lot of time on this. Spend more time on the internal, and believe me, this part is gonna flow. That's my number one recommendation.
Yeah, it'll be easier once you know.
That's my number one recommendation, guys. And I want to help you make simple connections and distill it for you. All these different things that you've been putting, you should be able to put it into a word bank. And I picked this example because it's so like iconic. Christmas, Bethlehem, King, Carpenter, what do you think of? Well, the Christmas season, right? And specifically Jesus' birth with Mary and Joseph and gold and frankincense, right? So this word bank is like, doesn't matter where you are, like people will always remember this in like 2 seconds. So here is our own word bank example. Purpose and profit. We've been talking about this for the duration of this lesson. Story funnels, combining the systematic marketing and sales using funnels with storytelling. Really, really awesome thing we're attempting to do right now and putting it out there. And of course, you're taking this, the vision, the gift, the voice, and the guide, some of the things that have shaped our understanding. And we actually recently just closed a massive, massive deal. And we're just like so pumped to be able to give you this information so that you also can leave a legacy and make an impact in the world. And that's our brand. That's what we're all about. And if you're here, you want to make an impact. You want to leave a legacy. You want purpose and profit. You want vision, gift, voice, guide. You want to tell your story through funnels, right? Like this is why we've done it this way, because you are able to come up with such a powerful thing that has taken us so long. Like we wish we had these resources and this process and this structure. We've had to buy it seriously through like events we've gone to and courses and calls and so much money invested. Like I love what Scott Olfor said, by the way. If you know Scott Olfor, like huge shout out, like he's been like such an inspiration to my learning. And he said something that it sticks in my mind to this day. He said, entrepreneurship is a personal development journey where you aim to make some money in the process.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
right?
That's pretty much spot on.
Yeah, she loved it. It's
like trying to find who you really are, why you're here, what you have to offer the world. And then you might hopefully make some cash.
Yes, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. Right. So
no, you can.
Yeah, you definitely can. Well, guys, like, by the grace of God, we've been able to do this now for years, guys. Being able to do this and stand on our own and be able to travel and be able to give and be able to create and be able to be at home. Like it's such a great opportunity. And I'm not going to say I've made like tons and tons of money. Of course not. But we've been making the most money we've ever made in our lives, more than our jobs. And that in itself is worth passing down to you guys, because it's so like, this is exactly our goals, which by the way, I added 2 extra ones because we were chatting about which ones to put for ourselves, just to give you some examples. So I wrote educate, inspire, serve, unite, and empower.
Mm-hmm. Right. So those are goals we believe are both extremely important to us.
We aim to do that in you.
Exactly.
We aim to serve you. We aim to inspire you. We aim to educate you. We aim to unite you with your purpose, to your profit, with what you want to do in a macro, with what you want to do in your own personal lifestyle.
Yep. And we want to empower you, because obviously the goal is so that you're not dependent on us for the rest of your business career, but that you go through this program, you go through this course, and you come out of it empowered to now become that change that you wish to be and empower others along the way.
Exactly.
Right. So it's a pay it forward mentality with empowerment.
Exactly.
And I really do believe that the main way that we do that is it's the education.
1,000%.
Giving you new knowledge.
1,000%. Let's look at some fails, guys, some examples to enrich you. Target. All right. I don't know if you heard of the data breach case study, but there were 110 million cars that were accessed. This information just got out there because of poor security and poor protocols. But instead of accepting it right away, they actually hid it for a while, for like at least a few days. So what they did wrong was lack of transparency. Everyone knew, and instead they just tried to like mitigate it with like silence. They needed to speak out. So
it would be a lack of vulnerability, essentially. Obviously, in that kind of position, it's embarrassing.
Right.
It would have been extremely embarrassing.
Mistakes are mistakes, right? And, going back to the responsibility value, we need to embrace and take full responsibility for our actions. But in the end, the CEO apologized and they gave discounts to consumers. So here's the lesson. Always turn a negative situation into a positive. Mm-hmm. Always, 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 always. Even with this one. The Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad. And this one is crazy, guys. You guys should see it if you haven't. Because this aimed to, make a statement about social justice, but it was so poorly done with, just not congruent. Like people could read from a mile away that they didn't do their homework.
Right. So the commercial was called Join the Conversation, right? That was the kind of tagline for this ad. Right. And so it ends with Kendall Jenner going over to a police officer and handing him a can of Pepsi, like you saw in the image that was before. And then everyone starts cheering, everyone starts, smiling, and everyone's united. So a few things that were wrong with this. Not that uniting in peace is wrong, but again, as Nessa says, there was incongruency between the people in the ad and what the message, what it really was. It was very unclear. So number one, wrong influencer. Well, why? Well, Kendall Jenner is not really the first person that I think of when I think of social justice, when I think of, movements like the Black Lives Matter movement or all these different kinds of towards feminism and beyond, right? Not really the person I think of when I think of public advocacy. Right. She's known for being, like a model, hair, makeup, all that kind of stuff. And she's never really been very public on her views about issues like this. So it didn't really make sense, right? Not really the person that you would put in an ad that was about social justice, incongruency. Number two, doing the ad in-house. So again, they didn't have a lot of objective opinions. This was all done in-house with Pepsi. No one really saw the issues that were going to take place. They couldn't really see I guess you would say the social context, the United States. Right. No one really was seeing the incongruencies that were arising with the commercial. Yeah. And maybe if they had have gotten an outside opinion, someone would have pointed it out very easily.
They were too focused on the commercial, on the aesthetics, on the visual representation that they missed the internal, essentially.
Yeah. And then last but not least, they didn't take a real stand.
Right.
So again, it wasn't really clear what these people were.
Who was the brand enemy?
Demonstrating for. Right. It was just a bunch of people walking around, but it wasn't really clear what the topic they were protesting was.
Yeah, they were demanding peace, but the funny thing is that when you are protesting about something, it's about running away from pain, not towards pleasure. Yes, you seek peace, but you're likely protesting for something. So you must say, yeah, we seek peace, but stop inequality. That's the stand, not peace. Like peace is the result of it.
Right.
Anyways.
And so, i.e., it would have made sense to actually focus on one topic that's being discussed in the world, in the media right now. Right. Take a stand on the side by either putting someone in the commercial who identifies with that opinion, or blatantly just say it in your tagline or whatever it might be that this is what you stand for. Yeah. So it was it wasn't prolific, right? It was in the middle. It was trying to be mainstream and using a very mainstream person that didn't take a stand for really anything on these topics. So the lesson, don't be afraid to polarize and make sure that the character fits the story.
Yeah, seriously.
So key practices of successful personal brand. So we just wanted to sum up this entire lesson with some actual tangible takeaways. Of course, you're going to get a worksheet where you're going to be clarifying everything that we went through, but now you're also going to get some practices of how you can actually begin to do this on a daily basis using your social platforms. So build your personal brand on these key practices. So number 1, good intent wins in a transparent world. And again, to be transparent, these are different tips and strategies that I've taken from Gary Vaynerchuk, who, as you know, is pretty much the king of personal branding, right? He's all about personal branding. And so good intent wins in a transparent world is something that he always says, right? Good wins. If you have good intentions, you're going to win. If you're being selfish and you're trying to be sneaky, trying to be conniving, you're going to lose. And what he really means by that is that with the power of social media on the internet, you can't really hide who you are anymore. It's going to come out. Truth is going to come out. And so you might as well really build your personal brand around a topic and a purpose, values that you really care about and that are truly helping the world make a better place. Because if you don't and you pretend, you're going to be exposed.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 2, have a media company mentality. So Andres already kind of addressed this, right? You need to think of yourself as a media outlet, right? So back in the day, let's even say 15 years ago, big companies like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, they used to have to spend an immense amount of money getting paid advertising on commercials on the television, on the billboard, on the side of trucks, whatever have you. And those are still really expensive and they're still valuable. However, it only made sense that they would only advertise that way because there really was no other medium. The average person or the average brand, a new startup company, couldn't just advertise themselves. Right. But now anyone can advertise themselves. And it's called social media. Right. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Quite literally, anyone can now become an overnight celebrity or an overnight influencer or a public figure by just knowing how to brand themselves on the internet. And so whether you are as big as Coca-Cola or you are a one man or woman show, you need to think of yourself as a media company, which is a whole game changer. Number 3, hack culture. So you have to understand what is important in culture at the moment. Understand what's relevant. What do people really want? What are they seeking? And so a prime example is the Kendall Jenner Pepsi commercial. They got some of it right. They understood that people want to be a part of something bigger right now. They understood that millennials care about social justice and causes, but they didn't hack it completely because they weren't really take a stand on what are most millennials, which side of an argument would they actually be on.
And that's why Kendall Jenner, she's not really a celebrity to be known for taking a stand against something. It's more of just like lifestyle brand and beauty. So it wasn't congruent.
Right. You'd have to have someone
story wasn't congruent.
Obviously in line with those values. So as an example of it was a march for feminism. Whether you agree or not, someone like Emma Watson would have been the perfect face for that because she has publicly spoke at the UN about rights for women.
Done something about it that reinforces the story of the social justice.
Or maybe even someone like Kanye West, really prolific, really controversial person, has a lot of strong opinions.
Right.
You want something that he stands for? Bring him in. He'll have an opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you have to understand what is happening in culture and then use that to your brand's advantage for the greater good. Number 4, talk about what you know. So obviously with the power of the internet and social media, you can talk about anything. You can share an opinion about anything. But the reason, i.e., Gary Vee constantly talks about motivation, talks about mindset, he talks about patience, he talks about personal branding. He only talks about a handful of topics over and over and over and over again.
Just like we told you on the content module, that you're supposed to have your content blocks. And if you did that correctly, you should already have clarified a lot of that voice. And this should just be nuggets that you're going to be applying with that voice.
Exactly. So, yeah. So our brand, let's say we talk about a lot purpose and profit and making an impact in the world and causes and entrepreneurship. Now, I may have an opinion here and there about the pop industry, about the music industry, but I'm probably not going to make content about that. A, it's not super relevant to the other topics that I care about.
Right.
And B, I'm not an expert at it. I don't spend hours and hours and hours learning about the music industry. I don't. I do spend hours and hours learning about entrepreneurship. I do spend hours and hours learning about nonprofits and philanthropy. But music industry, not so much.
Right.
So talk about what you know and what you're an expert at. And if you're not an expert yet, talk about your journey at becoming an expert at whatever it is that you care about.
Right.
Number 5, be 100% authentic. So again, this obviously is tied in with having good intent and being transparent. But what I mean by being 100% authentic is not censoring beliefs that are extremely important to you because you think it's what other people want to hear.
Right. That's key.
So this goes back to your values, right? If you are really, really passionate about integrity, well, then you're probably not going to be pretending to boast that you're a multi-millionaire if you're not. That's not authentic, right? Or if you are really passionate about your spirituality or animals, but you decided that, you know what, people in your industry are not really super fond of that. Well, of course you can choose to hide it, but I would recommend that if it's extremely important to you, it's part of who you are, that you just share it. It's going to be prolific. Some people are not going to like it, but the people that do are going to be that much more loyal to you.
That's it.
So
that's the key.
Something to think about.
Polarize, remember. Talk about it.
Number 6, consistently document and create. So Andres already said this, that consistency in your personal brand is absolutely key, right? If there are, there's always going to be things that make you unique and differentiate you, but sometimes they're not going to be major, and that's okay. But what will differentiate you is how often you post, how much value you share, how many questions you answer to people, right? That's what's really going to set you apart, is being constantly in front of them to the point that as soon as they see your logo, as soon as they see your name, they have complete brand awareness of who you are.
Right. I think one of the things I heard Gary that shocked me the most was that he produced about 100 pieces of new content a day.
It's insane.
A day. But he's not creating these individual pieces as some of you might just thought right now and almost fell off your seat. Mm-hmm. Don't fall off your seat, friend. He documents and creates very long format stuff, just like imagine like a vlog type of thing, and then has virtual assistants which will teach you how in the next lesson, by the way. No, in the next one too. In
week 12.
Week 12, sorry. On how to be able to cut it into micro pieces and different formats. Like, for example, from a video, you can create a podcast because you extract the audio. Or from a video, you can create like screenshots and make them into pictures and memes for Instagram, right?
A blog post.
Right. And so that's the key, right? Like you're repurposing a lot of this information.
Right, exactly. And so as we said, if you are not an expert at what you want to be an expert at yet, documenting the journey is a great way to create content of just.
That's basically what we've sort of tried to do sometimes, when we travel and when we did some things like that, and like it becomes part of our journey, and then we can quote it and we can be like, oh yeah, when I was doing this content, I was saying this, I knew this, I believed this.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, number 7, long-term brand over short-term sales. And if you know anything about Gary Vee, he always talks about patience. And to be honest, in the beginning of our entrepreneur journey, I didn't really understand everything that he meant when he kept saying patience, patience, patience. Because sometimes it just seems like business can become a means to an end, and you never want to make it that. We've been there. It's not fun. It will not be enjoyable, and you will not be making impact because all you're thinking about is making a certain amount of money so that you can get to a certain goal. But the whole journey then becomes meaningless. That's not what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by long-term brand is essentially being patient and making decisions based on your brand values and your purpose, even if that means getting less money up front, making less money for the first year, making less money for the first 2 years. Again, I'm not promoting that you make no money. You may hit it big. You may have a winning service that everyone wants, and you could definitely make a whole lot of money in your first year. It can happen, and it does happen. However, all it means is not compromising your long-term brand, your persona, your values for short-term gain sales.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? If you follow this training and you apply it and you give it your all, I believe 100% you can create a 6-figure plus business a year. We've given you everything that has taken us there ourselves. And I want to make sure that you understand how much of a shortcut you're having with this. Yeah, some of these trainings, you know what? That's why we give only one of these videos a week so that you can watch it multiple times. And you know what? That's why we give multiple different sheets, more than most people do. Why? Because we understand that when you don't have the right resources, you will not implement it. And when you don't implement it, you won't see the results. So I beg you and implore you, do it, if not for yourself, but for the greater good.
Right, for the purpose, the purpose of your brand.
Right.
Exactly. So that is the end of our lesson for week 10.
It was a beautiful lesson.
Mm-hmm. So your action steps, it is one sheet. It's called My Personal Brand, but we've essentially outlined, I'll just show you here.
Yeah, sure.
We've outlined all the key components of your personal brand that you need to specify. So a lot of the questions that we gave you to get you thinking about, you know, what your purpose is, what your brand persona is, all that we put into this sheet. So I'll just go quickly through. So part 1 is your brand purpose. And again, you ask some questions here about how to find that. It should help you. And then you can really clarify what your internal and external purpose is for your brand, for your business. Then we go into your brand core values and brand enemy. So again, you have questions here to help you think about what those are. And we've also given you a list of some really great values. We ask you to find about 5 to 10, and then you can, of course, summarize even down to 3. But 10 is a good starting place to really get you thinking, what is really important to me, right? What is really important in my business that I cannot live without? Then we go to part 3 of your brand persona. So we give you this graph again so you can take a look. Again, these are not the only brand personas. Feel free to do more research. As an example, you know, one that I really identify with is the advocate. The advocate is not here, but it is kind of a blend between, you know, the caregiver and the innovator / explorer. Some of them can kind of tie in. So feel free to also label yourself one that you feel you identify as.
As long as you put one and that you understand what's the main emotion or value, you know, driven here, and ultimately what is it a part of at a greater scheme or greater scale.
And that ties in with your values and your story. So then going on to that, part 4 is your origin story.
Yeah, just like we share ours.
Right. So here you're gonna, within about 6 to 12 sentences, identify what that origin story is as it relates to your purpose and how your business came to life, right? And remember that you have to clarify both what your internal journey is and what your external journey is, right? Which should automatically tie into your internal purpose, external purpose.
They're all connected.
Right? And again, it needs to be relative to your ideal avatar. So you have to be authentic,
keeping
and
them in mind,
and empathy, right?
Keeping, you know, week 3 in mind, essentially, which is the avatar, and pull up those sheets again. You know, I know that sometimes our brains are lazy and they don't want to fill out sheets and do things. But believe me, you're not going to retain it. It's a lot of information. So pull up those sheets. I would recommend pull up the avatar sheet, and I will recommend pull up the story sheet.
Yeah.
And then pull up this one. That's it. Just 3 little tabs. And believe me, you'll do a lot of magic with that.
Yeah. So I think that was week 3, I believe, was the ideal avatar.
Yeah.
So week 3. And then I think stories, I'm pretty sure stories were week, I want to say week 7.
Okay.
I want to say week 7. Double check that. But yes, those sheets as well.
Yeah.
Should we? So yeah, basically by the end of their origin story, your ideal avatar should say, me too. That's me. Not so what.
Right.
They don't care. They don't see how it's relevant to it.
Right. They should see connections and similarities with themselves and their own story.
Exactly. So, part 5, tagline. So the same questions that Andres gave you in the slides, you are going to go through this process and come up with a final tagline for your personal brand. And then lastly, you're going to deal with your visual identity. So we've given you all the links here of the websites that you can use to find your colors, typography, symbol, images, and logo. And we urge you to use all of these free yet really, really valuable resources. So this is your task for week 10. And last but not least, let's read the quote. So I chose a quote by Gary Vaynerchuk because, again, he's all about personal branding. If you really want to learn even more in depth of personal branding, I would follow him. Follow all the things that he teaches because he's always talking about it. And he's a living testament to how powerful it is. So he said, developing your personal brand is key to monetizing your passion online, aka your purpose. Okay? And I mean, that's why we're all here, right? We all want to do work that we're passionate about and that has meaning in this world, right? Gary Vee is all about leaving a legacy of giving value, right? Giving more than he took. I think at our core, that's kind of that's probably what you want and what we want to, right? It's all about leaving something behind, good in the world, being known for someone that gave. So
he is blessed to give more than he is to receive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we really hope that you enjoyed this lesson. We really enjoyed putting it together.
Yeah, we really enjoyed this one. I think it's going to be very powerful because, again, your money and your influence is directly tied to your reputation, which is directly tied to your name, which is directly tied to your personal brand. It's literally insane how when people get this part right, they just open themselves doors because they just start becoming who they really need to be because they understand who their audience wants them to be and needs them to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So hope you enjoyed that and found that very valuable, guys. We wish you the best. And again, please fill that sheet out. It's going to help you tremendously and really clarify what that purpose is and how you're going to fulfill that through your branding.
Exactly. Let us know in the chat any questions that you have. Mm-hmm. We really hope that you are loving this and that you have already been making money with all of this stuff that has already landed you clients, landed you deals, landed you, able to get people to buy your products and services. So yeah, we're super excited to be able to teach you this. And I hope you build a very powerful brand. Let us know.
Have a good week, guys.
Take care.